Welcome to Prem and Proper for Matchweek 24, and we'll take you through all of the surprising results, especially involving teams that are fighting to stave off relegation. We'll run through the numbers, get you through some of the action from the weekend, get you ready for Matchweek 25, which is going to kind of be like a Matchweek 25 and a half. It's going to take about 10 days to get everything done. Some teams playing twice, some not at all because of European competition. What we will do is we'll go through all of the numbers and get you through some of the action and activities of the past week and get you ready for what's going to be going on with some teams playing twice and catching up with numbers, and it could really set us up for the run-in for the final, say, 13 matches of the season for teams balancing relegation, plus those teams trying to chase European competition and the teams that are going to try and solidify European competition. All right, let's get you through the action from the Matchweek 24 and all the sound that we have. First off on the board, big comeback win. Big comeback win for Arsenal, coming back to from a down 2-1 deficit to come back to win 4-2. As the early game on your Saturday, here's Mikel Arteta, courtesy of our friends at Arsenal their own selves, about the big comeback win to keep them at the top of the table and some space between them and Manchester City.
I think we showed a lot of resilience, character and quality. The context of the game was difficult, with the performance that we had against City and get nothing out of it. And then having to come here less than 72 hours and after 5 minutes you are down. And then, you have to play the next 90 minutes. What we are as a team right now. And we have some difficulties in certain periods in the first half. And individually we bring the level right down and we stop doing all the simple things right. And at halftime we said the moment is now, guys. We have to raise the individual level, we have to look each other in the face, and we have to do much more if we want to come out and win this game, because we can. And we alter one or two things and then we produce a very, very strong performance, and probably we should have won it earlier than we've done.
Was that the kind of comeback that champions have to do?
You have to. I think at some stage you're going to have to win games on the 94, on the 96. You're going to have to score from set plays. You're going to have to score when you are sometimes down to 10 men. Win in any context. We always talked about that. And today we had a really difficult context, especially with what happens after 5 minutes. And the team showed a lot of emotional qualities that are needed to be up there. So I'm really happy with that.
One of the other big pieces of news from the weekend comes to us, and it's very sad news. Christian Atsu found in the rubble in the earthquake in Turkey. Eddie Howe and Alan St. Maximo were asked about the kind of guy that Christian Atsu is as they held 1 minute silence and appreciation for Christian Atsu in the Premier League at the Newcastle match this past weekend against Liverpool.
Yeah, it's a real tragedy for Christian, his family. I woke up to the news as everyone else did, and I was truly devastated for him, and as I say, and his everyone that knew him. A lot of players in our dressing room that worked with him for a couple of years, and yeah, I've made reference to that, before the game, speaking to the players, because I felt it was something we needed to do. But we'll pay tribute to him today as a football club with a minute's silence, and our thoughts are with him.
It's a very sad day for Newcastle and for all the players as well, because most of the players there know him well. It was a great guy. I have a mini conversation with him and a very nice time with him, and to see that it's very painful. So it's something still at the moment difficult to talk about for me, but for sure I will never forget that guy, and I will fight for him.
What can you say in a situation like that, both personally and professionally?
I think it's a case of just understanding what a tragedy it is, and giving him our thoughts and our prayers, and that to his family as well. We want to support them in this moment.
We knew him as a footballer. What sort of person was he?
It's hard to explain, and I'm not gonna lie. I will tell you the truth. I never see a guys like that before. When I just arrived in Newcastle, even if we play the same position, he was always give me some advice. Always a very, very nice guys, kind guys. He was always joke and always smile every day, even when he play or don't play. So was a great person. So that's why it's a sad news for me, especially because I know him. So it's a difficult day for me, but I will try to do my best to think about that and to take that to do the best game it's possible.
The sound courtesy of our friends at Sky Sports News. Now, Manchester United keeping pace in European competitions. Big win for them on Sunday. The early match at home against Leicester City. Big match for Marcus Rashford, courtesy of our friends at Sky and NBC Sports Soccer. Let's talk about how big a day it was as he continues to be the hottest striker, the hottest scorer in the Premier League right now.
Well, Marcus, congratulations, not just on the result, but a special afternoon for you personally. How good does it feel to have broken that personal record now?
Yeah, it's obviously a nice feeling, to be scoring goals and ultimately winning games. I think first half we didn't actually play that well. Second half we played a lot better. We found people in pockets, found Bruno in pockets, Fred, and, they're creating chances for us. So we need to try and look to do that from the beginning. But it's also a positive that we're not playing at our best and we're going at half-time a goal up. So definitely stuff to improve on and learn from, but overall a good day.
Now, you mentioned there, particularly the opening stages of that first half, perhaps as a side you weren't at your best. There's a lot of pressure on you when you found yourself through on goal, not just personally, but for the team as well, to try and get yourselves out in front. You did have a moment, didn't you, before you looked up? So what was going through your head as you went to place that?
I was going to pass it. I was going to pass it. I think Garner made a good run, but the defender was on the inside of him. We had a little look at the keeper and then a look at Garner, and I just thought shooting across the goal would be the best option. If the keeper does save it, then he can have a chance of tapping it in for a rebound. So always going to go across goal there, but yeah, good for it to hit the back of the net.
Your reaction quite understated, actually. Was there a certain amount of relief there, do you think?
For the first goal?
Yeah.
I think so. I think when teams are putting pressure on you, they're creating some good opportunities. David, brilliant save. I think it was his arm or his leg early on in the first half, and they're important moments. And without having someone like him in the net, we can't go on to win the game. Because if they go in 1-0 up or they go 1-0 up in the game, it's completely different.
So now Manchester United, the bids are in. 5:00 p.m. Friday, 10 o'clock in London. Everybody had to have their bids in to figure out who was going to be the new owners of possibly all of Manchester United. Rebecca Lowe and David Ornstein caught up with each other on NBC Sports to discuss what's going to be happening and any timetables associated with the bids and figuring out who the new boss is going to be at Old Trafford.
This takeover situation, the bids are in, the soft deadline is passed. The United fans want to know, who's going to win the bid?
Yeah, you're right, Rebecca. Indicative bids are in. And what we know is that Sheikh Jassim bin Hamad Al Thani from Qatar, he is the chairman of QIB, Qatari Islamic Bank, is pledging to take over 100% of Manchester United and lay no debt on the club, which is obviously going to curry appeal with the supporters after what's happened under the Glazer ownership. And then Sir Jim Ratcliffe, he's the British option, the Ineos petrochemicals billionaire. He's talking about buying the majority of Manchester United, but that does mean taking over from the Glazers in full. But the conversation about the additional shareholders would be for another day. He says that any debt that Manchester United incur or this takeover occurs, if he does it, will be on Ineos and not on Manchester United. We don't know the exact value of the bid so far. Manchester United won around £6 to £7 billion, and I think we'll find out more when the interested parties get access to the Manchester United books. They don't want to show their hand to rivals at this particular point. There's also the Elliott US hedge fund who are offering finance to the Glazers if they are to stay in some capacity or to interested parties. And there may be others who we don't know about so far. They're pledging to invest in the team, in the infrastructure, improve the community, the surrounding areas. I think Sir Jim Ratcliffe, as a Manchester-born boy, is playing more on the political side as well. There's talk about conflicts of interest with Sir Jim Ratcliffe owning Nice and Qatar being involved in PSG, but we're assured the separation is clear. There's concerns over human rights, over greenwashing, and these are the things that will need to be allayed with supporters in the coming weeks and months. And then it will come down to the Glazers. What decision are they going to make? We don't know, but there is optimism that this will be done by the end of the season.
Chelsea in a world of trouble right now. Only 2-6-6 since Graham Potter took over, losing to Southampton by the score of 1-0 on NBC Sports and USA Network. Tim Howard was asked, okay, what about Chelsea and Graham Potter?
Rebecca Lowe, Robbie Earle, Tim Howard, catching our breath. Couple of things to talk about. Chelsea, Tim Howard, where do they go from here?
In a word, it's a mess. Where do they go from here? 2 wins in the last 14 Premier League games. Graham Potter, more losses than wins since he took over. I think they go one of 2 ways. I think he gets sacked, which I would hate. I can't even believe I'm saying that. Because you have to win, ultimately, to keep your job. Or the season just becomes a wash. And right now, that's what it feels like. It feels like there's no continuity in the team. They bought a bunch of players. They have to get a bunch of players out. They have this big squad. It just feels as if right this second, the season could, if they don't sack him, could just be a wash. They'll try and get things right. They'll have a mass exodus in the summer and then go again next year.
Rebecca Lowe, Robbie Earle, Tim Howard, catching our breath.
So let's run through the scores from Matchweek 24 and get you ready for Matchweek 25. Your results dating back through the weekend was no Friday night football. Remember, the early match, once again, Arsenal over Aston Villa by the score of 4-2 at Villa Park at a -116. Bournemouth, the big 3 points, getting a 1-0 win at Molineux against Wolves at a +374. We'll get into the standings in just a bit. One of the shockers of the weekend, Forest draws Manchester City, throws a wrench into the citizens' chase of Arsenal and trying to win the Premier League title at a +449. Manchester City had a lot of chances, including one late from Haaland off the crossbar. None of them went in. 1-1 draw. Manchester City, frankly, should have won this one 4 or 5-1. They end up with a 1-1 draw, a wasted opportunity for Manchester City on the 10 o'clock games on Saturday. Everton, we mentioned them. It was Everton 1-0 over Leeds at a +174. Big 3 points there. Seamus Coleman with the goal. And Everton gets full points. We mentioned Southampton's 1-0 win over Chelsea. Same score, Fulham over Brighton at a +524. Brentford and Crystal Palace tie at 1. Brentford had to come back in that one to get the point at a +257. Liverpool, 2-0 win over Newcastle. Mark Pope gets a red for handling the ball outside the 18 in the 22nd minute. 2 goals on the board by then. They had to play the remainder of the match with 10. Now Newcastle will be without Pope, and they will be without Martin Dubravka for the cup final match because, once again, red card carries over. Dubravka is cup tied, so that means it could be Loris Karius or Mark Gillespie in net for Newcastle as they chase after their first title in quite a long time. Newcastle losing 2-0 at a +183. We mentioned Manchester United's 3-0 win at a -179 over Leicester, and it was Spurs and West Ham. Spurs with the win over West Ham by the score of 2-0. Son coming off the bench and getting the goal there. So Spurs at a -118 at Tottenham's Hotspur Stadium get the win over West Ham. So that gets us into the standings for the Premier League after Matchweek 24. Mentioned Arsenal with a match in hand. They have a 2-point lead now over Manchester City, 54-52. Manchester United, 24 matches in, only 3 points behind City at 49. Then your gap. And this is where group number 2 takes up their space. Spurs, 42 points. They've won 3 of their last 4. Newcastle, 4-game unbeaten run snapped with the 2-0 loss. They're at 41 points. That's only their second loss of the season in 23 matches. They are currently in 5th in the Europa League space. Fulham, 38 points. They've won 2 in a row. They are in 6th. Brighton, Liverpool, Brentford, all at 35. Goal difference right now and goals scored if you have to carry over Brighton and Liverpool. Brighton has scored 1 more goal than Liverpool has, 39-38. They both have identical records, and they have the same amount of goal difference. So on goals scored, Brighton 7th at 39 goals scored. Liverpool is 8th at 38 goals scored. Brentford is 9th right now, having scored 37. They have a 5-game unbeaten run, drawing 3 of their last 4. They're all at 35 points. Chelsea, they had their 4-game unbeaten string snapped with the loss. They are at 31 points in 10th. Villa has lost 3 in a row after the initial new manager bump with Unai Emery. They're at 28 points. So now you could probably include Crystal Palace, having drawn 4 of their last 5 into group number 2 at the tail end at 26 points, 23 matches played. You could include them in group 3 if you want. Forest has hit each of the columns in their last 3. They're at 25 points in 13th. Leicester had a 3-match unbeaten run snapped with the loss. They're at 24 points. Wolves at 23 points. And here's where the fun starts. 5 teams, 3 points, the relegation zone. Everton out of it at 21 points. Right now they've won 2 of 3. Bournemouth with their win, once again, they've hit each column in their last 3. They're at 21 points out of the relegation zone. West Ham in the relegation zone with the loss at 20 points. Leeds at 19 points. They've lost 3 of 4. Southampton with the win is not as far out of the relegation zone as they were coming into the weekend. They've lost 15 of 23, but they are at now 18 points. Goal difference of minus 21. They've only scored 19 goals in their 23 matches so far this year. So let's get you into the next matches in the early juice boxes as we head into Matchweek 25. Coming up in 5 days' time, you actually do have Friday night football on the 24th. Fulham at plus 125 at Craven Cottage as they host Wolves. Now, we're going to go for about a week and a half here, and Arsenal is a part of this because all the way through March 1st, they play twice to even up the number of games that they have at the top of the table. 4 matches, 10 o'clock on Saturday. Everton hosting Villa at a plus 163. Villa is a plus 177. Your draw's a plus 231. Another relegation battle. Leeds minus 101 at home at Elland Road against Southampton, who's a plus 286. Your draw's a plus 259. Leicester at King Power hosting Arsenal at a plus 376. Your draw's almost a plus 300. Arsenal comes to town at a minus 139. West Ham Nottingham Forest at the bottom of the table at 10 o'clock. West Ham's a minus 135. Your draw's a plus 268. Nottingham Forest is a plus 415. 12:30. Bournemouth at the Vitality. Must-win situation for Manchester City. Bournemouth is a plus 955. Manchester City a minus 357. And your draw is a plus 514. This on the back end of Manchester City playing in the Champions League in the midweek. Interesting to see what the lineup will be for Manchester City in this match at 12:30. 2:45, Crystal Palace hosting Liverpool at Selhurst Park at a plus 372. Your draw's a plus 295. Liverpool's a minus 135. And Monday Night Football, it is Spurs and Chelsea. And, Sunday is just the one match at 8:30. It is Tottenham and Chelsea. Tottenham's a plus 144. Draw's a plus 238. Chelsea's a plus 204. Then to March 1st, it is Arsenal and Everton. Arsenal at the Emirates is a minus 303. Everton basically a plus 955. And Liverpool hosting Wolves at a minus 204 at 3 o'clock. Plus 374 is your draw. Wolves are a plus 545. Then that cycles everybody back through into the weekend where all the matches are caught up for the most part, getting you to March the 4th. So that has been the wildness and the woolliness, to create a verb, when it comes to Matchweek 24 to get you ready for Matchweek 25 and Matchweek 25 and a half. So it's crazy all over the place. Once again, thanks for hanging out for another round of Prem and Proper. Craziness at the top, craziness at the bottom. We know that that's pretty much how it ends up every single time. For everybody here at SDH, for Jason, for Jarrett, for Nick, I'm just John. Played safe, everybody. Enjoy the games in the Premier League. It's going to be a sprint to the finish. No question about it. Played safe, everybody. Mucho plate. I'll see you next time.